Hello, Durud and Shalom. Guys, make sure you like the stream. Reza Pahlavi just recently went and spoke at the Council on Foreign Relations. I don't know if you guys know what this major think tank is. A lot of things were revealed. A lot of things are now much more clear to non Iranians because Iranians already knew most of what he just said. But this is for you guys. And let me say, guys, today, what is today? Today is October 7th, right? So this is, I think, this is related to October 7th because this man, Reza Pahlavi, is your solution to something like October 7th not ever happening again. This is the solution. And now, 2 years after October 7th, Reza Pahlavi's team has become so organized and they have so much support and they have so much relations with powers around the world and have so many people from the regime defecting to Reza Pahlavi that it is now clear more than ever before that if you want a solution to all these problems, including October 7th, Reza Pahlavi is the answer. And everything Reza Pahlavi and his team have been doing in the past 2 years, you could see the result of it now today because he demonstrates it today and he basically tells you what the fruits of all of those labor has been. And this stream is the ultimate way for you to realize that he is the one, he is the solution. If you are a Westerner and you care about your country, if you're Israeli, if you are any one of the member of any of the countries in the Middle East, or in fact, if you are part of planet Earth and you consider the Islamic Republic and its Islamic agenda and its terror proxies all around the world and its influence all around the world to be a negative thing, this is how you end it. And his speech here at the Council of Foreign Relations is really important because this demonstrates that he has now reached part of American policy, reached a higher level of influencer in American politics. Because the CFR or the Council on Foreign Relationship is a powerful U.S. think tank that studies global affairs and influences American foreign policy. It's an organization. It's one of the most important think tanks in America when it comes to foreign policy. It doesn't actually make the policy directly. It indirectly influences America's foreign policy by bringing all the politicians and business leaders and scholars to discuss international issues. So this is basically when you go every time in this conference at the CFR, the new agendas and the new direction of Americans' foreign policy is being set. This is a gathering that they used to invite the Islamic Republic politicians in, but this time they invited Reza Pahlavi instead. By the way, guys, the journal Foreign Affairs is by the Council of Foreign Relations. So this is for them to get informed on this topic, and basically they will set the agenda and the narrative and everything that the American politicians and Western politicians as a whole need to know regarding what positions to take next. So this is why this is such a key event. This is why this is so important. Let me see who's in the chat. Okay, all my people are here. Everybody's here. That's fantastic. Let me know, guys, if you watched this or not, because we're going to be watching it together. This is very important. This is very historic. I hope Israelis in my chat understand why this is so important to you. I hope you understand that this is the solution. If you want your country to stop being forced to get involved in war after war after war, conflict after conflict after conflict, this man is your solution. Support him. And after today's stream, you will see why I'm saying that. After today's stream, you will understand beyond reasonable doubt that the way to solve all of this fucking mess is Prince Reza Pahlavi. So let's watch this. Let me know how my audio is. Is my audio okay in the chat? And also make sure you like the stream. So it's going to start. Council of Foreign Relations. On Foreign Relations. Okay, let's just go forward a little bit. There's a lot of empty at the beginning. My audio is okay. When does it start? I think it starts around here. There we go. Let's go to the...
It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the Council on Foreign Relations Reza Pahlavi. This meeting is on the record, so the usual council rules actually don't apply. Reza Pahlavi and I will engage in a conversation between the two of us for about a half an hour, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. And I just want to say that when I was a sixth grader writing an essay about the Iranian hostage crisis, I never imagined I would be sitting here with a fellow resident of Potomac, Maryland, talking about Iranian politics. Well, welcome to the council once again. Let's start out in the late 1970s. Iranians rose up and overthrew the regime that your father led. Why would they now choose to restore the monarchy? And what is your vision for Iran?
Okay, the question demonstrates how very little Westerners understand Reza Pahlavi, Prince Reza Pahlavi. He asks, because he thinks that supporting Prince Reza Pahlavi means supporting bringing monarchy back to America, to Iran, monarchy back to Iran. Do you guys understand in a live chat how dumb of a question that is? Yes, somebody's saying stupid question. Yes, it is. Somebody named Armin. Oh, wow. And oh, by the way, Sagi, thank you so much for the super sticker. Really appreciate the support. Listen to this again.
Why would they now, father led? Why would they now choose to restore the monarchy?
So Iranian people choosing Prince Reza Pahlavi does not necessarily mean that they're choosing to restore the monarchy. It could mean that, but it's not what Prince Reza Pahlavi's agenda is. Prince Reza Pahlavi's agenda is to bring sovereignty back to the Iranian people, to let the Iranian people decide their own type of government, their own destiny, their own way of life, their own government, everything. Prince Reza Pahlavi has not decided for the Iranian people that Iran is going to go back to monarchy. It might, and it might not. Prince Reza Pahlavi's agenda is to give the Iranian people the choice to choose their type of government in a referendum. So it's so bizarre when people ask, like, why would people want to bring back the monarchy? As if Prince Reza Pahlavi is like, guys, this is what Prince Reza Pahlavi has been saying for the past 40 years, over and over and over again, that it's up to the Iranian people. All he wants to do is give the Iranian people back that choice, not to just force monarchy upon the people. We got another super chat by Mujtaba saying, King Reza Pahlavi, make hashtag MIGA, which means make Iran great again. Thank you, Mujtaba. Thank you for the super chat. And also thank you to Bellheimer Lord for becoming a member. I appreciate that.
And what is your vision for Iran?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here.
So this is Prince Reza Pahlavi for people who might not know him. And I want you guys to, if you have never listened to him speak, I just want you to ask yourself as he's speaking, is this the guy that you want to support or not? Does his interest align with your country's interest or not? Ask yourself that as he's speaking.
In this prestigious gathering,
yes.
The Council on Foreign Relations and their work over the years, I think I've had 2 or 3 occasions prior to participate in some meetings in the early 80s and then later on. So I'm glad to be one more time amidst this group. Look, I don't think this is about restoration or about a particular outcome. It's about democracy and self-determination. And I think whatever Iranians thought back then, if you listen to what the Gen Z of Iran says today about that generation, is, what the hell were you thinking? And you put us in this mess. So how are we going to liberate ourselves now from what?
So he's answering the second question first, regarding the revolution that happened as in 1979. Do the Iranian people believe in that revolution? He's referring to the fact that most young people in Iran are basically look at the older generation and ask them, what the fuck were you thinking? And also, thank you for the super chat, Graham, saying Turning Point IRI. What is that? Okay, well, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate your support. Iran, you mean?
Has been the net result.
Turning Point Iran, you mean? Yeah.
So I think today the viewpoint and the vision of Iranians, who, by the way, have become more than ever aspiring to something that is, in fact, a very unifying theme, which is a sense of national identity against a regime that from the very beginning tried to crush every aspect of Iranian culture, history, from celebrating Nowruz all the way to other things. In other words, an Iranian renaissance against the most anti-Iranian regime we've ever seen. Not to mention the fact that it's been extremely repressive. And
yeah, the Islamic Republic is the most anti-Iranian force ever in the history of Iran, and this is not just a symbolic statement. The Islamic Republic is actually genuinely anti anything that is a symbol of Iran. Nowruz, Shahnameh, the ancient kings, ancient pre-Islamic architecture, everything that is Iranian, the culture, Iranian culture, the Islamic Republic is against it, because the Islamic Republic considers Iranian symbols to be in competition to Islamic symbols.
I don't think there's anybody in this room which would deny the fact that perhaps this is the most sinister regime we have encountered in modern history, that encompasses the worst of all the evil regimes we have witnessed. Totalitarian in one way, like the Soviet Union was, fascist in a way, like the Third Reich and the Hitler regime was, racist in the sense that the apartheid regime in South Africa was, and yet it's still sitting there, imprisoning the Iranian people on the one hand and threatening the stability of the world, including being a threat to this country's interests and national security. So long story, what is the perspective in Iran now? And why am I here? And what is my role? My role is not to run for office. I'm not. My role, however, is to maximize the chance for my fellow compatriots to be able to liberate themselves and decide ultimately via the ballot box and ultimately via referendum what it is that I ultimately would like to have as a secular democratic government to replace this religious dictatorship. This is
secular democratic government. That's what we want to replace. Okay, so emphasis on secular. Most Iranians want a secular government to replace the Islamic Republic. That should give all of you a lot of hope for the future of Iran.
All our campaign, and this has been our struggle all these years. And we hope to be able to know that in this campaign, we're not alone, and we would have the support and the solidarity of democracies that are of the same viewpoints and values that we cherish, unlike a regime that stands totally against them. And that's what the fight is all about. Values of liberty, equality, human rights, versus a regime that has stampled on it from the very beginning. And that's the cause that we are all fighting today.
Let me follow up on that for a second, because I think you made a little bit of news in that statement. If the Iranian regime were to fall, however it does, you would not necessarily put yourself forward.
Somebody in the chat is saying, "Is this actually happening, bro?" Well, look at. He will explain it in more detail, bro. He explained in more detail how much pressure the Islamic Republic is under right now, and how much stronger the opposition is right now, how much more organized, how much more united, how much more connected the opposition against the Islamic Republic is, and how weak the Islamic Republic is today. So it's the stars have aligned to basically get rid of the Islamic Republic. If you want this to happen, and if you want to have a non-chaotic power vacuum, if you want a a chaotic power vacuum to be avoided after the regime collapses, then you need to support Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team
to lead the new regime? As democracy, you would be among candidates, or you wouldn't be a candidate at all?
Again, it's not being a candidate for the job of ruling. I've offered the role of leading this campaign of transition. Why? Because this is the ask of the majority of my fellow compatriots who have a trust in me to be able to play that role for them. So my job is to unify as much as possible the democratic opposition. My job is to bring as much support as possible to the people themselves. My job is also to mobilize as much as possible the diaspora. And this is based on a 5-point plan that I have initiated, at least in the last couple of years, which includes maximum pressure on the regime.
In the last 2 years, especially, ever since October 7th. Ever since October 7th, Prince Reza Pahlavi's team has mobilized and organized much more significantly, and his new team has done so much in the past 2 years, more than the opposition managed to achieve in the past 40 years. Prince Reza Pahlavi's team has been able to do in the past a
couple of years, which includes maximum pressure on the regime, which is something that the world is doing. Snapback is being re-implemented. That's one aspect of what external pressure could be.
The snapback mechanism that was initiated by the European countries, which is going to bring back the pre-JCPOA sanctions back on the Islamic Republic. So that's basically maximum pressure on the Islamic Republic. But Prince Reza Pahlavi always also mentions that in parallel to that, we also need maximum support for the Iranian people.
Maximum support to the people, meaning that parallel to the campaign of maximum pressure, there has to be an element of maximum support, assuming we want to go beyond appeasement. And this time, seriously consider that an end of this regime is ultimately the solution, but it's done at the hand of the Iranian people, not by means of foreign intervention or anything like that. So
this is very important that he says that, because Prince Reza Pahlavi has said that after the 12-day war, he did acknowledge that that's a very unique opportunity for the Iranian people to take advantage of. However, he also wants to emphasize that regime change at the end of the day will happen by the Iranian people, and we as the opposition or the revolutionary force against the Islamic Republic, we are not asking for U.S. foreign intervention or for U.S. to come and invade the Islamic Republic or anything like that. He really wants to emphasize that, because he wants Americans to know that we're not talking about an Iraq or Afghanistan situation where there's so much U.S. troops on the ground and years of nation building and stuff like that. That's not what he's referring to. He's talking about the regime becoming weaker and weaker and weaker, to the point where the Iranian people will have the upper hand, and the Iranian people will basically be doing the final push to push the regime off the cliff.
We need to be able to actually have an element of more direct support to the people, be able to.
By the way, if you let me know in the chat if you support Prince Reza Pahlavi, and especially if you guys are Israeli or American. But everyone else, just tell me if you support him or not in the chat, because I want to know what you guys think.
Also, as a consequence, encourage maximum defections from regime elements to the people.
Oh yeah, here's another thing that he is doing. His team has they have had a QR code connected to a very secure system where people from the regime, especially the armed forces, are defecting from the regime to his side. In thousands of people have done that from the regime. So I think the last time the number was 50,000 or something. We'll see.
The people be able to also, as a consequence, encourage maximum defections from regime elements to the people, to minimize the cost of change to the Iranian people, and have a better chance of a smoother transition post-regime collapse than any other scenarios. And ultimately, in parallel to all of this, a plan of Iran prosperity and reconstruction, which is an IPP project that I've also launched about 2 years ago. So
Yeah, 2 years ago, he launched the IPP project, the Iranian Prosperity Project, with all the plans in great detail for how to rebuild Iran right after, from day one after the regime collapse. And again, let me tell you that there's no, in the history of revolutions, we have never had such a detailed plan for what to do after the toppling of the regime, um, before the regime is toppled. So this is a very, very organized, expert, united opposition with a very high level team by Prince Reza Pahlavi.
Combination of all of these is part and components of what we have done over the last at least 2 years. And I guess the question that everybody might have is, okay, we've seen several uprisings in Iran, at least in the last 5 years, the last one being the Mahsa Amini murder that triggered the Women Life Freedom movement. And why is it that until now we haven't really seen the ultimate uprising of people? And the simple answer is, well, this is an extremely repressive regime. And instead of restricting the regime...
So that's a very good point. So people are asking, like, why have people, you know, we had three of the most brutal, oppression of protests, and three really big showing of people in the streets of Iran against the regime, 96, 98, and 401. And these are based on Persian calendar. I don't know how to translate that into the Gregorian. But in the past couple of years, Iranian people came into the streets in huge numbers to fight back against the regime. But we haven't had one for a while now, like a major, like a really big one. So a lot of people are asking, like, why is it? What are they waiting for? Why this is not happening? Especially after the 12-day war, some people were hoping that the Iranian people will rise up again. So Prince Reza Pahlavi is explaining. Anybody who asks that, the Prince Reza Pahlavi has the answer to that.
Murder that triggered the Women Life Freedom movement. And why is it that until now we haven't really seen the ultimate uprising of people? And the simple answer is, well, this is an extremely repressive regime. And instead of restricting the regime in instabilities, it has in fact been emboldened by means of the wrong policies or approach, especially in the Western world. Again, a peace.
So see, he's basically turning it back on Western countries themselves. He's saying that the reason is that the Islamic Republic in the past couple of years has become more brutal and more capable of suppressing the Iranian people because of the policy of appeasement by Western countries like Biden and Obama and European countries. Basically, you have given the Islamic Republic the ability to increase its suppressing power upon the protesters. That's so, instead of you asking us why you haven't done something, he's basically turning it back on the policies of these Western countries.
Again, the release of funds that they should not have had access to.
Yes.
Again, appeasement. Again, the release of funds that they should not have had access to, that did not serve in the sense of helping the starving nation in Iran, but fortifying the proxies, arming them, equipping them. I would say that October 7th was not a coincidence. But all of this ties into what we can do to equal the playing field for the Iranian people. So this time they haven't.
See, October 7th was not a coincidence. October 7th was funded by Obama and Biden. Okay, one more time I say this for people who didn't hear at the back. October 7th was funded by Obama and Biden because of their policy of appeasement, which required releasing many funds to the Islamic Republic, which went into directly supporting all its proxies around the region, including Hamas, which made October 7th possible. So this is not an exaggeration to say at all. When I say Obama and Biden funded October 7th, this is actual reality.
Actual chance, should they commit to an ultimate campaign of uprising, not to be crushed yet again by a very repressive regime. And this is why we need to be able to work with the free world, those countries that understand the dynamics of change via civil disobedience and domestic uprising, as opposed to by means of war or foreign intervention or occupation, because that's not the direction we want to go at all. And that's why I say the change of regime in Iran is a very different scenario than what we've experienced in recent
in Afghanistan and in Iraq, right? So he knows Americans are very sensitive about getting America involved in a situation like Afghanistan and Iraq. So he's saying this is not the same regime because we're Reza Pahlavi and the rest of us are advocating for regime change. But so many Americans, when they hear that, they have this gut reaction like, oh no, please, not another Iraq situation. So Reza Pahlavi is trying to make it clear that Iran is not like Iraq. Iran is not like Afghanistan.
the change of regime in Iran is a very different scenario than what we've experienced in recent years since 9/11, what happened in Afghanistan or Iraq or anything else.
How do you've invoked the Iranian people and the Iranian diaspora? I want to get to that in a minute, but you've invoked the Iranian people any number of times. How do you, as a leader of this movement, and have put yourself forward to lead a transition, if not the country, how do you gauge the strength of the opposition to Iran, especially after the so-called 12-day war? It's hard for me to call it 12-day war. It just seems weird. But how?
Why does this seem weird? We have the 6-day war. Why is the 12-day war such a weird name?
12-day war. It's hard for me to call it 12-day war. It just seems weird. But how? After that, there's been this wave of repression in Iran. So how do you know, sitting here, how strong the opposition is, and how do you know that they can be successful? I guess what I'm asking is, if you think it's strong, how do you think this is going to actually happen?
Well,
so this is very interesting because people ask him like, oh, you're saying there's a strong opposition. Well, we don't have the evidence for it, but Reza Pahlavi can actually provide you with the evidence. But here's the interesting thing I need to add. Reza Pahlavi, Prince Reza Pahlavi, is the only person that could provide you with the evidence because he is the only person with the team and the organization that has been able to attract with evidence, with measurable evidence that there are so much support for his movement from inside of Iran. So let's see what Reza Pahlavi answers, because in the past 2 years, they have done so much to actually not only do all of this work and gain so much support by the Iranians, but also to actually be able to demonstrate it to anybody who's asking. So let's see how he demonstrates that. Oh, thank you, Mushtaba, so much for your super chat. Mushtaba saying, we trust King Reza Pahlavi, #MIGA, which means make Iran great again. Well, thank you so much for your support. Hold on. There's so many anti-Pahlavi people. By the way, I like the fact that so many people come here and hate on Pahlavi, because that also shows that he is very influential. And if you notice, the people who are attacking Prince Reza Pahlavi are also, there are other leftists or, one of those Islamic forces, part of the Islamic movement. And you could tell that most people who hate Prince Reza Pahlavi also hate Israel, which is a good indication that he's the person that you need to support.
Information certainly gets to us. I mean, there are ways of circumventing the regime's attempt to curtail the ability of people to communicate. Social media has a big role to play in this, but also other challenges that are more safe for certain elements that would be in a position of giving us critical intel on what's happening on the grounds inside Iran, both on the domestic side, the civilian side, as well as the military and paramilitary forces. As a matter of fact, when I announced in a press conference in Paris, I don't exactly know how many months ago it was, but it was within this calendar year. That's where I announced a campaign where we will announce a QR code that people from inside who wish to cooperate or to defect from the regime can connect with us and share with us their information. And in the first few weeks, we had over 60,000 people who applied. I don't know what the number is now.
So that's it. How many? 60,000 in the first what? So guys, this is his first answer, right? So how do you know there's a strong opposition from inside Iran supporting Prince Reza Pahlavi? They had a QR code for people within the regime itself. Within the regime itself, part of the armed forces to use to come and pledge their loyalty, to defect from the regime and pledge their loyalty to Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team. And within the first week,
connect with us and share with us their information. And in the first few weeks, we had over 60,000 people who.
In the first few weeks, they had 60,000 people from the regime itself coming to his side. I mean, who else has anything like this? Who else has anything like this? If you want the Islamic Republic gone, this is your man.
Applied. I don't know what the number is now. It's probably greater than that. Information, of course, that needs to be vetted and analyzed to make sure that these are actually legitimate people, that we are not being infiltrated or penetrated by double agents. But that's very telling, because these are people who would be in the military, in the paramilitary, in the civilian bureaucracy. And the reason it's important is because the whole point of my strategy in this campaign of putting an end to this regime cannot not have a factor of maximum inclusion of elements that can survive regime change.
Right.
And my default position has been anyone whose hand is not soiled with the blood of the Iranian people should have a possibility of seeing a place for themselves.
This is so important. This is so important. He's saying that when the regime, our plan is that when the regime is toppling, there are people within, elements within the regime itself that we're not going to get rid of, that we're going to keep. Again, you might think that, oh my God, what? Like, that's not good. Everything from the Islamic Republic needs to go. He's saying anybody from the regime right now that doesn't have blood on their hand directly, we will give them a way out, a way for forgiveness, a way for them to stay, because Prince Reza Pahlavi is wise enough to understand that we should not be repeating the mistake that was made in Iraq with Saddam. So a lot of people think that the toppling of Saddam was a bad idea. It wasn't. The thing that was a bad idea was what happened after. The military, the U.S. military did its job perfectly. The politicians screwed it up by completely dismantling the Ba'ath Party, which created a power vacuum that caused the chaos in Iraq after Saddam's fall. So Prince Reza Pahlavi knows that we should not be creating a power vacuum like that with the fall of the Islamic Republic. So he wants to make sure that we tell the people within the regime that we're not just going to come for all of you, and many of you can stay as long as you're not one of those people who have directly blood on your hand.
Post-regime collapse. We don't want de-Baathification. We don't want that mess.
We don't want de-Baathification. Is that how you say it? So basically, just removal of the Ba'ath Party after Saddam's fall. That's what he's referring to.
And of course, the Iranian people have the right to seek justice, and they will have their day in court, and those responsible will have to account for their crime. But majority of these people who are not part of this top echelon of the regime that benefits from these arrangements, it's a mafia that's just sucking the blood out of the Iran and its resources. Once they're out, those are the people who stand to face the music. Would they rather stand with a sinking ship, or do they think that this is the moment now to join with the resistance and the movement of liberation? And we are providing them an option so they are not in no man's land. That also depends on how the world responds to this phenomenon, because you cannot, on the one hand...
So he's saying this is your last chance. The people who are with this regime, join our side now. That window is closing. By the way, people, make sure you like this stream so that more people end up watching Prince Reza Pahlavi and become more familiar with them. This is a great man, and this is our solution to all the mess in the Middle East. If you want peace in the Middle East comes by supporting Prince Reza Pahlavi. I'm telling you this. If you want peace in the Middle East, that happens only by supporting Prince Reza Pahlavi. So make sure you like this stream so that more people will end up watching the stream.
That also depends on how the world responds to this phenomenon, because you cannot, on the one hand, ask people to defect and for people to rise if the world is still trying to negotiate yet another deal with this regime, or push back or postpone this opportunity. And this window is open right in front of us right now, but it won't last forever. So we have to start calculating whether there needs to be a policy reset from a 4 decades long collective policy of the Western world, America and its European allies included, that has been mostly containment and appeasement, or we need to move to the next level now, because I think this regime has given far more chances to come clean, and they haven't. And how long do we want to kick the can down the road and say, not under my watch? This is really what we're facing right now.
I'm kind of digging the way history is rhyming here. We've gone from cassette tapes in the 70s to QR codes in the first quarter of the 21st century. I was going to ask you about the Iranian diaspora, but you...
Okay, this guy is obviously a boomer He thinks QR codes are very advanced technology. Okay, the part of the technology that is very advanced is not the QR code. QR codes, my God, this guy gets easily impressed. The part of the technology that is very impressive is the what happens after you scan the QR code and how secure the data collection process is. That's what needs to be advanced. Anybody could make a QR code.
In the first quarter of the 21st century. I was going to ask you about the Iranian diaspora, but you mentioned something a couple of times about Western appeasement. So it's fair to say that you are opposed to a new nuclear agreement should one materialize, or should there be negotiations for a new nuclear agreement?
Well, first, I don't see one coming, and I think we are past that point, because the regime right now is so brittle and so vulnerable that as a last resort, I don't think they will cave in. In fact, they might double down. And they have done that in the past. What leads us to believe that this time they say mea culpa?
It's so interesting that he asks him what his position is on whether or not the U.S. should go back to the JCPOA and do an agreement with the Islamic Republic. Like, do you not know what Prince Reza Pahlavi's opinions on negotiating with the Islamic Republic is? Like, these are some very low level questions. Like, these questions are not very advanced. Like, these are basically questions that somebody is asking for an audience that doesn't have even the most basic understanding of Iranian politics. Like, what do you think he's going to say? Like, oh, sure, let's go negotiate. Let's have another nuclear deal with the Islamic Republic. What the fuck is
that? As a last resort, I don't think they will cave in. In fact, they might double down.
But Prince Reza Pahlavi is saying, I don't even think that the Islamic Republic is going to go in that direction, because this is a regime that is going to double down, and he will explain to you why.
And they have done that in the past. What leads us to believe that this time they say mea culpa, now we're going to be good guys? They had ample opportunities to do that. They were offered far better deals than the last offer they had received. We can rewind tape all the way back to the days of Khatami, and they still didn't take it. But the question should be, why didn't take it?
It sounds like the so-called Palestinian conflict. People are like, oh, let's do another deal with these so-called Palestinians. Let's do another one. And people are like, you know what? They had better offers than this before, and they said no to that. So why do you think this time is going to be different? So this is the same. Basically, it's the same situation with the Islamic Republic. They're like, oh, make deals, make this. Like, we should give diplomacy another chance with the Islamic Republic. Make them agree to this deal. And like, he's saying exactly what he's saying is true, not just with the Islamic Republic, but also the so-called Palestinian movement. They had better deals, that they were offered better deals than this before, and they said no to it because they are ideologically driven, because they're basically working on a completely different agenda, not known to people who are pragmatic, not known to understandable, but people who are utilitarian, who want stability and peace and prosperity. They're chasing heaven. They're chasing the coming back of the Mahdi. They're on a completely different, world. They're basically their way of thinking is foreign to us, to normal people, to people who live on in this world rather than in the clouds.
And they still didn't take it. But the question should be, why didn't take it? It's because the DNA and nature of this regime is such that they cannot coexist in the same sphere of rationality of the world as we know it. Their entire existence depends on exporting this ideology. That was the entire purpose from day one. Khomeini, who then was...
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of Westerners still don't understand this. They want to play a carrot and stick game with the Islamic Republic, with the false understanding that the Islamic Republic cares about the resources of Iran, cares about the well-being of its people, cares about prosperity in Iran. They still don't understand to this day that the Islamic Republic is not even Iranian. The Islamic Republic is trying to spend Iran for an Islamic agenda. It's like a parasite that is eating its victim and it consumes the victim completely, so that it could then use the body of its victim to spread its eggs and larvae to other hosts outside. It's completely okay with completely destroying Iran as a country, because it's eating Iran from the inside, so that it could eventually spread its Islamic revolution and export it to places beyond the border. And guys, this is not a theory. They admit this. They say this. They believe in this. It's not about Iran. It's not about Iran. It's about Islam. And that's what the West still does. So many Western, especially people on the left, still don't understand. Even the Democrats don't understand. They're like, oh, maybe if we threaten them, like you're threatening a parasite by threatening the health of the body that is of the host. Like, it doesn't care about the host. It's eating it from the inside. It's actually destroying it itself. It doesn't care about that. What that threat is not going to work on it.
Champion one. Khomeini, who then was championed as the person who would liberate Iran by those who led that campaign against the previous regime, could not have imagined what the consequences would be. But if he only had listened to a simple answer that he gave in an interview to a journalist as he was flying back in that 747 Air France Boeing to Tehran, and he was asked after 15 years in exile, what is your feeling returning to Iran? You know what he answered? Nothing.
Nothing. It's a very famous recording of Khomeini. After 15 years in exile outside of Iran, he was coming back to Iran. In the airport, the journalist asked him, what do you feel going back to Iran? He said nothing. And Khomeini was famously anti-patriotism, famously against it. He was famously against the concept of Iran as a whole. He's famous. One of his quotes is that whoever says that I'm Iranian first and a Muslim second is not a Muslim at all, right? He's famous for saying patriotism. We don't need patriotism. Patriotism is a sin. We don't want people who are trying to basically fight for their country. We want people to fight for Islam. That's what he said. Like, these are all on record. Like, this is all, we have videos of all of these available. This is the leader of the Islamic Revolution. I mean, the IRGC, for example, if you go look at IRGC, Sepah Pasdaran Inqilab Islami, and their goal, their mission statement, just go read the entire thing. Their agenda. How many times do you think they mention Iran? I mean, Iran is not in their name. Iran is not in their mission statement. Iran is not in their agenda. If you go read the entire thing, it never mentions Iran. It's everything is about Islam. Everything is about Islam and the Ummah.
That set the tone of what Khomeini or this Islamic revolution was all about. It was not even about Islam. Because if you ask Iranian clerics today who are not part of the regime.
Okay, so he's saying that it's not even, I mean, it is about Islam, but he's right to point out that it hasn't been good for Islam either. Okay, like they were trying to use Iran to export Islam, but what they have actually done, they have made Iranians hate Islam more than ever before. So that is the outcome.
Never in our history has that particular faith been so damaged and people turning out from the faith. Right now in Iran, the largest, fastest growing religion is Christianity. We have over 1,500 underground churches in Iran.
So listen to this part again. So it's true. If you only focus on religions, not the nuns, okay? The fastest growing religion in Iran, if you focus on religions, is Christianity. And there are so many secret underground churches in Iran. By the way, if you ask Tucker Carlson or Candace Owens or Anna Kasparian, they make it seem like, oh no, the Islamic Republic is very nice to Christians and Christians are celebrated by the Islamic Republic. I mean, if that was the case, why do we have so many? Why do we have 1,500 secret underground churches in Iran? Why do we have that? Why do they need to be so secretive about it?
Out from the faith. Right now in Iran, the largest, fastest growing religion is Christianity. We have over 1,500 underground churches in Iran. You all remember, talking about your article, that back then the first exodus of Iranians that were forced to exile were people who were immediately persecuted by the regime because they were Jewish or they were Baha'is and what have you. And yet they came to this country, many of them run this country, but they're dreaming of an opportunity to be able to help Iran again. And how good that would be for Iranians and how good it would be for this country. What stands between that future is this regime that continues to take hostages, that continues to fund whenever they can elements to bring more instability in the region. Bottom line, they are the ultimate problem. The Iranian people know that. Many people in the world are beginning to recognize that. The question is there the political will to do something about it? And that's the part that I'm afraid to say I have seen so far missing. I'm not saying it's going to remain like this all the time, but there needs to be a clearer process of making decisions. And I always remember two eras in history that marked and defined the world as we know it. One was during the Second World War, when you had Roosevelt.
Yeah, these are actually the two examples that you need to remind people, because people try to keep reminding you of the Iraq disaster and Afghanistan disaster after 9/11, but they forget that foreign involvement by Western countries is also responsible for the fall of the Nazis and also for the collapse of the Soviet Union. So why don't you remember the good times, the good, the good consequences, not just the bad?
I always remember two eras in history that marked and defined the world as we know it. One was during the Second World War, when you had Roosevelt and you had Churchill. And that combination ultimately put an end to the Third Reich. The second time around was Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher. They were able to bring an end to the Soviet Union. And of course, Gorbachev had a role to play in that, agreed. Today, the question is, we are faced with a situation where this very same Iranian regime that the British government tried to appease is stealing drone technology by sending students in British universities to transfer it back to Iran to serve the Russians in the campaign against the Ukraine, just on that front. What would be the prospect of a world where the whole region might be yet again dominated by another kind of superpower that does it in a different way? And I'm talking about China, obviously. Or for that matter, what happens.
He's very clever to mention these things because the Europeans are worried and preparing for a day where Russia is going to do a massive attack, because a lot of European politicians are convinced that at some point Russia is going to try to attack the Eastern Europe to bring back the Soviet Empire. You think this is inevitable at some point? And a lot of American politicians are worried about whether or not they're going to go to war with China over Taiwan. Whether or not these things will happen or not, that's not the point. The point is that the Islamic Republic has taken the side of helping both Chinese government and Putin. So both the Europeans and Americans need to understand that if those wars are about to happen at some point, it would be a good idea to get the Islamic Republic out of the way before that happens. So you don't have the Islamic Republic with all its oil and gas and its drones supporting your enemy in the middle of the war. So that's a very clever thing to keep pointing out, especially because the Islamic Republic has shown that between the Russia-Ukraine war, they have really helped Putin with all the drones that they supplied to Putin, that's actually what convinced the Europeans to be more on the side of regime change right now compared to before, because nothing gets the Europeans more worried than somebody supporting Putin against Europe. So, I mean, the Islamic Republic did the impossible. It actually managed to make the Europeans wake up, which is pretty impressive.
Right now, in the symbiosis between the Iranian regime and Moscow when it comes to the Ukraine conflict. All of that being a situation where no Western leader has yet to identify the problem and the head of the state. So we are trying to appease the biggest culprit that is a reason for all of this instability. And I don't understand at the end of the day, what's the rationale behind that formulation of foreign policy. I asked David Cameron when I was in London 2 months ago, why is it that you're not subscribing the IRGC as a terrorist organization? And his answer was, well, our basic thinking and the Foreign Office is we don't want to use our channel of diplomacy, which is our embassy in Tehran. Really? Didn't you use Switzerland as an interim or the Qataris for another reason? Do you really are telling me that you're afraid of subscribing the IRGC just because you don't want to lose a diplomatic channel with the Tehran regime? Come on. But that's one of the problems, among others. Anyway, I don't want to go too
I started out the question about nuclear negotiations. Would a post-Islamic Republic pursue nuclear technology?
We're not going to need nuclear energy because Iran has so many giant deserts that are perfect for solar panels. And the way things are heading, first of all, it makes sense for us to just focus on solar energy because we don't want to, scare off our neighbors and United States and Europe and Israel, because they might, after the regime change, I think it might be a good, because many of these other countries are not going to be sure whether Iran is going to be staying secular democratic or maybe it will go back to being Islamic. So it would be good as a way to make them feel safe and allies of the new Iran, is to just avoid the nuclear option. And given that solar panels are becoming cheaper and cheaper and more efficient, and given that Iran has so many really hot deserts that are perfect for solar energy, I think it would be better to focus on solar rather than nuclear.
Would a post-Islamic Republic pursue nuclear technology, recognizing that much of the infrastructure is...
Yeah, exactly. Yusuf in the chat is saying solar panels being installed in Iran is one of the biggest things that's needed. Exactly.
Not workable at the moment, but there is... Would a post-Islamic Republic pursue nuclear technology, recognizing that much of the infrastructure is...
This is a good opportunity for Prince Reza Pahlavi to demonstrate how less of a worry Iran would be for the rest of the world after the fall of the Islamic Republic.
Not workable at the moment, but there are still Iranian nuclear scientists.
Yeah.
There is know-how. I'm sure there are sites that the United States and Israel did not find. Would it pursue nuclear?
From the very beginning, it just didn't make any sense for me to consider Iran as a country that would be in a situation to actually have nuclear reactors for a number of reasons.
But didn't your father start the program?
Well, I will explain. But let me. Okay, we'll go back. Yes, in the 60s, when we were starting to look at other sources to provide electricity and not use fuel only as a source for generation of electricity, thinking more of the byproducts in petrochemicals and what have you. At the time, we started looking at different options. There were gas turbines who were not efficient enough at the time and rather expensive. Solar energy, which was really its infancy, nothing to do what it could be today. And of course, nuclear. And we came to nuclear because ultimately it was more cost effective, which is why Iran signed the NPT. We had shares in Framatome, which was, I think, the entity that would have provided the nuclear rods for the 2 first reactors that were supposed to come online in Bushehr in 1982. And of course, in the middle of all this revolution happened. That was the calculation back then. But when I look at Iran on a seismic plate, very little water and access to water in low population area, it just doesn't lend itself to it. And I think today there are so many technologies in renewable energy, solar being one of them, that Iran is a perfect candidate for, that we can certainly bypass that nuclear aspect in 2025 as opposed to 1971 or 72. Anyway, That's my personal viewpoint. I leave it to the experts to assess that. I'm just sorry to hear that billions and billions of dollars have been wasted on this program that has yet to generate any in any practical way electricity, but something that is
like the country, a country with more gas and oil than the vast majority of the countries in the world, one of the top three at least, did not thought to itself that all of this gas and oil is not enough for energy, so let's go nuclear for electricity. I mean, surely that's not for electricity. A country with this much oil and gas is going nuclear for nuclear weapons. But imagine after all of these years of having all of that oil and gas, but also adding the nuclear option with the excuse of providing more electricity to the Iranian people, we have now blackouts all over Iran. We have electricity outage hours every day in Iran, in a country that is, you can't blame the sanctions on this because you don't need to import energy in Iran. In Iran, the energy is right under your feet. In Iran, the energy is right under your feet. So it's an absolute miracle for a government to actually get a country with so much energy to a point where we have hours of electricity outage, even in the capital of the country. I mean, imagine other places. So what did that? I mean, even without the nuclear option, you shouldn't have blackouts. But now you added the nuclear option and you still have blackouts everywhere. So where is all that electricity then?
Worse is that as far as the nuclear ambition program of this regime, it has cost our country over $1 trillion worth of.
Wait, somebody's saying, Armin, isn't it risky for Reza Pahlavi to reveal the number of military defectors? Will the current regime try to find out and purge the potential defectors? Mentioning the number is not going to make a difference. As long as they know that there are defectors, the regime is going to try to find them. But at the end of the day, you do need to advertise the fact that you have this. And so many people have joined it so that you could advertise other people doing it at the same as well. At the end of the day, all of this has risk associated with it. But hey, revolution is risky business, and I'm pretty sure the people who joined, defected, and joined Prince Reza Pahlavi, they know the risks. They know the risks, but you cannot have a risk-free revolution.
Loss or damage. So the whole narrative is shifting towards let's be sane in mind.
Roy, do you want to join? I can send you. Roy is here. Roy, if you want to join, let me know. I can send you a link. Should I send the link to Roy? I forgot. Oh my God, I forgot to send the link to Roy. Okay, from now on, I will send the link to Roy in case he wants to join.
Let's be concerned about environmental issues. And I've been spending a lot of time with Iranian entrepreneurs and American entrepreneurs, many of them in the fields of how can we best tackle this thing and Iran's energy needs and requirement. And more often than not, the nuclear issue doesn't even pop up, number one. Number two, I think that as far as the possibilities of.
Okay, guys, I sent Roy a link. Please convince him to join me, okay? Hold on, let me see. Ricky saying, which government is worse when it comes to unnecessary blackouts, Iran or South Africa? I don't know. I just know in Iran is really, really bad. I don't know how much the blackouts are in South Africa, so I don't know how to compare. Yeah.
Needs and requirement. And more often than not, the nuclear issue doesn't even pop up, number one. Number two, I think that as far as the possibilities of having more impact in terms of Iran's economy, I think these other industries will provide much more immediate jobs for the country than any nuclear program would. But again, this is my personal opinion. So the future of Iran has to be on par with making sure that we are using the safest technologies, the ones that are most beneficial, and steer away from anything that could be subject to question. And we will operate in full transparency as we did before, unlike a regime that has never been transparent on the subject. And if you ask Grossi and the IAEA what's their take on the Iranian ambitions, they still won't be able to give you a clear answer. reason more when you ask me about the nuclear negotiations. That's one of the issues. Can you actually trust them and what they tell you or what they commit to?
Let's go back to domestic politics in Iran. Your critics, my apologies, your critics, not me, they contend that, one, the Iranian opposition is terribly divided, and that the diaspora community is terribly divided, and that you've been unable to unite the diaspora community. So they question whether you'd be able to unite Iranians around a transition after the collapse of the Islamic Republic. How do you answer that question? What is the state of your movement, and how do you plan to unite Iranians who have very, very different views about a post-Islamic Republic Iran?
Well, for anybody who...
Okay, so you need to really pay attention to this, okay? Because this is what a lot of people say about Prince Reza Pahlavi, that there's Iranians who oppose him, that the opposition is divided, that there's a lot of infighting. Okay, so the way that you need to look at this is that whatever revolution has, any successful revolution in history, if you look at the people who won the revolution, at the end of the day, there were so many people who were against them and didn't agree with them, but they won the revolution anyway. So you can't have everybody. What you need is enough people. Obviously, if you do anything that is meaningful, some people will oppose you and some people will be against you. Pointing at them and saying like, oh, the opposition is divided is ridiculous, because there is no revolution that didn't have that, right? So what you need to demonstrate is not that you have everybody. What you need is that you need to demonstrate is that you have more than anybody. You have the highest amount of unity, not all unity. You don't have a consensus, but you have the largest umbrella that people are joining in under it. You have the largest group. You have the largest coalition. You have the largest people from different section of society joining you. That's what you need to demonstrate. So let's see if Reza Pahlavi responds to this effectively, showing how much support that he has, even though some people might not like him, but does he have a lot of people, and especially compared to other people, right?
Very, very different views about a post-Islamic Republic Iran.
Well, for anybody who is interested in the facts rather than the narratives, I will point them to the facts. And the best fact that I can point them to when it comes to your question is last month when I was in Germany, we had the Munich conference, which was a conference that was the vastest and more diverse ever within the Iranian opposition in 46 years.
So Prince Reza Pahlavi, I think, is going to use 3 tools here, 3 ways to show that his group is very diverse of different sections of society. And he's also going to show that many people are joining him. And he's also going to show that he has the highest amount of support. So the Munich conference that they had in Germany, that one demonstrated that we had, again, it's important. Again, I know a lot of you might like cringe over the word diversity, but the truth is that in America, to get the support of America, you need both the Republicans and the Democrats. And for some reason, the Israeli politicians don't give a crap about this. They just want to see results. But when it comes to getting the support of America, Prince Reza Pahlavi needs to also demonstrate that the people who are supporting him, the people who have accepted his leadership, come from all sections of society, so that there's a diversity. He needs to demonstrate that, and he did demonstrate that in the Munich conference when we had the leaders of many different minority groups coming and speaking and pledging loyalty to him. That was a demonstration of that.
Vastest and more diverse ever within the Iranian opposition in 46 years.
So yeah, that was the vastest. Well, listen to this.
Which was a conference that was the vastest and more diverse ever within the Iranian opposition in 46 years.
Oh, somebody's saying, Armin, will you meet Reza Pahlavi? I mean, that's my greatest dream, honestly. I've talked to some. I mean, I don't think it will ever happen, but I don't know. I've talked to somebody that has talked to his team, and they said that they could make it happen. But to have him on my show, again, if anybody from Prince Reza Pahlavi's team would want to make this happen, here's my email, armin.navabi@gmail.com. I don't think it will happen, but a man can dream. right? so that's my email. If anybody from Prince Reza Pahlavi's team wants to contact me, and I would love to have a show with him.
Including people from different walks of life, ideologies in 46 years. Including people from different walks of life, ideologies. Former Marxists and leftists were there, Republicans were there, representative of Iranian ethnic groups were there, representative of the latest wave of Iranian victims to the regime's repression during the mass revolution, kids that were shot in the eye, their grieving mothers, they were all there. And it's on record for everybody to see. And the video is out there, you can go and study that. Yesterday, a new website was launched, which is the Iran Rising website.
Yes, guys, I showed you this website. Like, this is the website that was just launched, Iran Ro Pas Migirim, and this is basically a way for Prince Reza Pahlavi to manage and be in touch with the Iranian people and have all the resources here for the revolution, all the ways that the Iranian people can join his team and help, and the people who sign, like, so far 791,000 people, Iranians, have signed this, and there are ways to join his team from 5 different ways to join his team and support him. I actually filled this one as a media outlet. I filled this one myself, so I don't know if they're going to contact me or not, but this is the website that he's responding to, and you could see that it has this only just came out a few days ago, and you can see it already has almost 1 million people joining this website. So that's another way for him to demonstrate that he is uniting a lot of people.
It was launched, website was launched, which is the Iran Rising website. It was launched about 9 a.m. yesterday. As of 10:30 this morning, I asked one of my assistants what was the response. We had over 1.5 million views already in 24 hours. And people from inside Iran are putting their names out there to join this campaign and participate.
Right.
If that's not an indication of unity and solidarity, I don't know what else I can put on the table.
That's it. If that doesn't show how much support he has, then you cannot be convinced. That was a very good response. Ziv in the chat is saying, Armin, do you think Israel should train and arm the Iranians against the regime? Well, I have news for you, Ziv. Israel already has. Israel, like during the 12-day war, there were so many operations by Mossad agents that basically completely destroyed the Islamic Republic's ability to respond to the Israeli attacks before Israel even attacked. There were so many military operations by Mossad agents inside Iran during the 12-day war. And do you know, when we say Mossad agents, we're not talking about Israelis. These are armed and trained Iranians. So there are already many Mossad agents in Iran who are Iranian. So they have been trained. This has already happened. I mean, at this point, I think we have more Iranian Mossad agents than Israeli Mossad agents. Okay. There was the Islamic Republic tried to bomb Mossad office, and they claimed that they hit it, even though they didn't. And it was funny because Mossad responded to them on social media by saying, like, don't worry, the building was empty. We're all in Tehran. Okay. We're all in Iran. Yeah.
Of unity and solidarity, I don't know what else I can put on the table.
Yeah, this statement is really important. Like, if this doesn't show how much unity and solidarity we have, then I have nothing else to show you.
Names out there to join this campaign and participate. If that's not an indication of unity and solidarity, I don't know what else I can put on the table as a proof to you people. So if you go and check that out, these are the facts, these are the measurables, and it's on that basis that I would say Iranians are becoming far more united. The opposition is getting more and more organized in working together on a common agenda. And the response from inside has been, of course, the strongest ever. And the interesting thing is,
Yeah, the Islamic Republic has never been this weak, and the opposition has never been this strong. This is a really good combination.
Is that I announced this platform on the day of a national celebration.
Oh, this is very interesting. Listen to this one. Here's another proof that he has about his influence in Iran.
That I announced this platform on the day of a national celebration of one of our cultural days, which is Mehregan. Mehregan, which is the celebration of light. And we have never had this particular celebration as vivid as others, like Nowruz, for instance, or Yalda, which are other.
So, guys, we in Iran, we have these ancient celebrations that are pre-Islamic. Okay, so the Islamic Republic wants us to celebrate, I don't know, the birth of Ali, or I don't know, the birth of Muhammad, or I don't know, Islamic holidays, or actually they focus more on death, right? So it's very interesting because the Shias they spend more time crying on the anniversary of Ali's death rather than compared to celebrating his birthday, because they're a cult, they're a death cult, right? So the Islamic Republic has always tried to replace ancient Iranian celebrations in favor of Islamic ones, right? But to this day, the Nowruz, the Eid al-Nowruz, which is a ancient Persian holiday, is way more popular in Iran than any of the Islamic holidays. And we have 2 days in Iran which we celebrate as ancient Persian, celebration days. One is Nowruz, which is the New Year, and the other one is Shab Yalda, which is the longest night in the winter, right? However, there's another ancient celebration, which is Mehregan, which many Iranians have forgotten about, and it hasn't been celebrated for a very long time, and it happens in autumn. It's a celebration of light. It's an ancient Persian holiday, and honestly, as an Iranian, I've never heard of it until Prince Reza Pahlavi mentioned it on the anniversary of it, and he asked Iranians to celebrate the ancient Persian, celebrations of Mehregan. And I didn't know why he's doing that. I didn't know why he is coming out and asking the Iranians to celebrate that day. I was like, okay. But now I see why he was doing that, because now in Iran, people are celebrating Mehregan, a celebration, an event that they didn't used to celebrate. What changed? What changed? Why are Iranian people now celebrating Mehregan in Iran? They're celebrating. The only thing that changed was that Prince Reza Pahlavi reminded Iranians of this great ancient Persian holiday of them. And the only reason why we're now celebrating is because of his call. He asking us, his appeal to us. So by asking Iranians to now celebrate Mehregan as well, and Iranian people celebrating it, he's demonstrating to both other Iranian people and foreigners his influence over the Iranian people, which was very smart.
As vivid as others, like Nowruz,
so listen to this,
which is the celebration of light. And we have never had this particular celebration as vivid as others, like Nowruz, for instance, or Yalda, which are other national celebrated cultural holidays.
This is such a 4D chess move.
And for the first time in 46 years, Mehregan was at the widest possible scale celebrated in Iran. And that was also part of my call. Let's do it on this day. I think that shows the connect, that shows the way people conglomerate and how they respond to me and my appeal to them. And these are all the measurables. Now, of course, some people hate my guts and don't like my face. I can't do anything about that. But I think that if you were to take an opinion poll in Iran, and in fact, there's a lot of data about that, surely a lot of people know that I'm, among anybody else, the most popular and the most trusted element, which is why they like to respond to me to be able to lead this movement for them.
Yes, talking about measurables, let me show you this one more time. This is a scientific study done by ERF.I in 2023, this Empirical Research and Forecasting Institute. And this is the political stance in Iran, just so that you can see that this is a scientifically collected data, and this is a very reputable organization doing the study. And you can see Prince Reza Pahlavi has the highest support compared to everyone else. like it's basically close to 80%. If you see Khamenei, he's less than 1%, is close to 0.5%, and Prince Reza Pahlavi is close to 80%. So this is all measurable and also demonstratable.
Part of your narrative is that the Islamic Republic will come to an end. Now, forever is a long time, but it has demonstrated resilience that I think people did not expect. It's been under sanction for a very, very long time. This past summer, it took 12 days of pounding by the Israelis and then the United States. And the targets that the Israelis hit were not just nuclear infrastructure or ballistic missile production, but as we discussed, instruments of the regime's repression. Yet the regime seems to be stable and durable. Why should we expect anything other?
Well, first of all, you have a society that lives 60% of them under the poverty line. Let's not forget that in 1979, the real was exchanged at 76 reals to the dollar. As of yesterday, it's 1,180,000 reals to the dollar for the same nation with the same amount of oil and gas in its reserves. And this is before snapback kicks in. I don't see in what way that could be tenable for a starving nation on the one hand, and for the regime not to have access to this kind of revenue, and how the hell they're going to survive and maintain their war machine going on. It's just a matter of time. In that sense, it is vulnerable. I'm as curious as you are to see the effects of snapback and what.
Right now in Iran, we have the weakest currency in the world, thanks to the Islamic Republic. And this all has happened before the snapback mechanism was used in the United Nations Security Council, right? So imagine what's going to happen next. It's really difficult to imagine how the Islamic Republic can survive all of this.
I'm as curious as you are to see the effects of snapback and what would that bring into the issue. And I think it's also the further isolation of Iran, because if you look at what may happen as a result of whether or not Hamas will accept the deal or not, then I think that this will be a time to see to what extent internationally the regime is also more than ever isolated.
Yeah, because we have gotten rid of like the effectiveness of Hezbollah, the Houthis, Kataeb, Zainabiyun, Fatimiyun, and Hamas. If Hamas surrenders as well, you will see that the Islamic Republic has never been this isolated ever. So we see internal pressures and external pressures at their peak right now on the Islamic Republic.
These are the actual dynamics in front of us. One is domestic, one is on the international scene. And I think we can, on that basis, say that if whatever until now has helped the regime somehow manage to survive, but at the end it will fall. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And the real issue is, and I remember the end of the Cold War, not many nations, particularly in the West, were prepared for the aftermath of the collapse of the Soviet Union. The mindset was the Berlin Wall might be around in our lifetime. That's what I thought, by the way, and yet it fell. But were we prepared for the aftermath? This is one of those cases that
right. So he's saying like the regime, if the regime falls, is the world ready? Guys, if the world's ready, are the world powers prepared for the Islamic Republic falling? Because if you want to be prepared, the best way to prepare is to support the team, the man and the team that already has a plan and already has the support. That's the best way to prepare for that day.
It fell, but were we prepared for the aftermath? This is one of those cases that I urge a lot of you to say, regardless of the status quo, you have to factor in that there could be a change. And if that change were to occur, are we prepared for it? No.
That's a very good point, because you guys might be skeptical. I'm skeptical as well. You might think the Islamic Republic might collapse or it might not collapse. But what we can be sure about that it could collapse. Maybe it won't, but there is an option where it actually collapses. That is closer and closer to a higher possibility, at least compared to the before. So even if you're not sure, the fact that it could happen means that you need to be ready for it in case it does happen. So you're not basically caught with your pants down, right? So you actually have something going for you when that happens. And again, you don't need to create that because Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team have.
Not to fall in the same problems in the post-Soviet Union collapse. That was not necessarily anticipated. This time we can anticipate. And in fact, this is the answer to a lot of people who keep saying.
So Lida is asking me in the chat, my friend said her daughter married a dissident of the Pahlavi family. Is she lying? How could I answer that question? How would I know? I don't know your friend. You want me to do a DNA test?
This time we can anticipate. And in fact, this is the answer to a lot of people who keep saying, we don't know what's going to be happening after the regime collapse. Is it going to be more chaos? Is it going to be more instability? Blah, 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 blah. And I think that we have enough data and actual measurable resources, both at home and abroad, to prove to you that Iran is not a country.
Sorry, I meant descendant, not dissident.
Where you would face a vacuum or civilian strife. Iran is not Afghanistan. Iran is not Iraq. It has its own dynamics, its own polity, its own civil society, although heavily repressed, but certainly alive and well. And I think it is that element that can provide you that what you're investing this time on is not a change of behavior by a regime that you cannot trust at the end of the day, but liberate a nation that see eye to eye on the same visions and principles and can be an actual partner over there. America by itself can.
So yep, this is what you need. You need, if you want, America can't be everywhere all the time. Even though America has the biggest military in the world, it could only stabilize the world and brings peace and security to the world and basically international trade and its allies by relying on other allies. You need America is a great country because it has allies in the right places. Let me repeat that for people who don't understand foreign policy, okay? America is a superpower because it has allies in the right places. Go look at what happened to America's economy and progress ever since World War II. It was because of this. This was a huge factor, right? So America can't just, even though it has the largest military in the world, it cannot just rely on that. It needs to rely on other countries doing their thing in providing their share of the responsibility for bringing peace and stability to their own corner in line with America's interests. So you need partners around the world. So how great would it be for America and Israel and basically the world if Iran has the government that was a partner with the US government in that region, just like Israel is?
A change of behavior by a regime that you cannot trust at the end of the day. But
yeah, like what are you trying to do? You're trying to change this regime's behavior. How many times have you tried that and it failed? Why not try this other option where you just remove this regime and bring have a government there that could be your ally?
That what you're investing this time on is not a change of behavior by a regime that you cannot trust at the end of the day, but liberate a nation that see eye to eye on the same visions and principles and can be an actual partner over there. America by itself cannot and will not be able to maintain global stability without having some partner in that case. Yes, the Abraham Accord was a good start.
So this is actually really telling. So you can see Prince Reza Pahlavi wants Iran to be a partner with America, right?
Clearly was sabotaged by the Islamic regime for obvious reasons. And I've been saying this, and I said,
guys, look at this. Look at this. Stephen here, he's here always. He hates what we're teaching and what we're telling you guys. And he always tried to say stuff against Pahlavi and Israel or stuff like that. But now he's actually revealing his true nature. Look at this. He's saying to me, I'm so glad that these people just tell on themselves like this, right? He's saying, your future is not better than Charlie Kirk, Armin. LMAO. Isn't it great that the people who are against our views come and demonstrate their values? Like I don't even have to do much. It's just so easy. All I have to do is just highlight I highlight their own comments. I just need to just highlight the people who are anti-Israel and anti-Pahlavi to show you what they stand for. Which is great. Thank you for that. Showing their true face, exactly. Wait, Ziv is saying, do you think that when the regime will change to be friendly towards Israel, it will also negate the Abraham Accords, Armin, since the main reason is the shared threat of the IRGC? No, it would change. What Prince Reza Pahlavi wants is to include Iran in it and basically rebrand it from the Abrahamic Accord to the Cyrus Accord. And it would not negate it because the alliance is not just based on threats. Right now in the Middle East, there's a huge need for investment and prosperity and progress and technology and tourism. So much investment is needed. And that could only happen when the countries in the Middle East come together and ally with each other. So in fact, at that point, it might even make more sense by having Iran included in as well. Like if these countries are not fighting with each other anymore, given the reason why this is so urgent is because alternative sources of energy is going to perhaps make the prices of oil and gas drop like a rock. And so many of these countries need to attract investment and tourism very, very fast before that happens. So, and they need to cooperate with each other on this issue immediately. So that threat would make them to work with each other really, really fast, right? So, and also, even if the Islamic Republic falls, at the end of the day, we are going to have a lot of Islamic terrorists, both Sunni and Shia in the region, trying to destabilize the progress of these countries. Like, in fact, you might even have some of them trying more than before, given how butthurt they're going to be that they lost their main last place of refuge. So Saudi Arabia, UAE, Israel, Iran's future government, they all need to basically collaborate, both intelligence-wise and military-wise, to get rid of all the Islamic terrorists in the region that are trying to destabilize these governments to bring their, because they're not going to give up. They're going to continue trying to bring an Islamic revolution. So it's not going to stop the accord. In fact, it's going to expand it by having Iran included in it. So there's that.
Said this when I was in Tel Aviv 2 years ago in a press conference, that if we elevate the Abraham Accords to the Cyrus Accords, meaning that...
Guys, I promise I did not plan that. What the hell? Did you just see that? Right after I said that, I played the video and he just said if we elevate the Abrahamic Accord to the Cyrus Accord. Guys, the timing. What is this? Am I a prophet? Am I divine? What else can I do? Do I have superpowers? Like what the hell? Wow, that was amazing. That was so interesting. That was great timing. Hold on. Like okay, that was pretty cool.
Accord was a good start. Clearly was sabotaged by...
Oh, so yeah, look at this.
Will not be able to maintain global stability without having some partner in that case. Yes, the Abraham Accord was a good start. Clearly was sabotaged by the Islamic regime for obvious reasons. And I've been saying this, and I said this when I was in Tel Aviv 2 years ago in a press conference, that if we elevate the Abraham Accords to the Cyrus Accords, meaning that a different Iran that is committed to regional peace.
Yeah, by the way, the Cyrus Accord has been, the first time somebody mentioned that, was Prince Reza Pahlavi. So this term has been coined by him, and now Israel and the United States politicians are using it as well. But it started with him. Hey, people are Amir is saying Mehdi Armin. BT is saying Hail Armin. Do you not believe now? Guys, submit to my divine powers. You can submit by liking the stream, by the way, if you want to pay tribute.
And cordial relationship with our neighbors will be the element that will seal the deal and allow for that process to take place. So we don't have to worry about the relationship between Tehran and Jerusalem and Riyadh and all the other countries in the region. On the contrary, we create an environment that is conducive to maintaining even more stability and encourage economic development, everything that our country needs. And it cannot happen so long as this regime is there. And the regime knows that. It's just trying to buy time. Its ultimate tactic has always been buy time, hoping that there won't be a Trump in the White House, or there won't be somebody that will be more aggressive as opposed to appeasing. That's what they've been doing as a tactic. And I think the Iranian people see through it, and I hope people outside the world begin to see through it as well.
Thank you.
Right.
Well, we have exhausted my questions that I plan to ask. So it's now your opportunity here. Let's start way in the back was the first hand I saw, and then we'll work our way forward in the room. Please identify yourself. Thank you.
Welby Layman with Walmart. You describe an Iran that would be secular and pluralist. One of the areas of pluralism is, of course, a plural set of opinions about secularism.
Is he asking a question on behalf of who? Walmart? Did I misheard that?
Yourself. Thank you.
Welby Layman with Walmart. You
Why is Walmart asking a question? I don't understand.
describe an Iran that would be secular and pluralist. One of the areas of pluralism is, of course, a plural set of opinions about secularism versus Islamic Republic versus maybe other options. Are there hybrid options or other ways of maximizing respect for that sort of pluralism?
Look, separation of
Wait, I was so distracted with his name. I think his name might be Walmart. I was so distracted. I didn't understand his question. But what is you talking about pluralism?
Are there hybrid?
Melbourne is saying, if they want to go global, Walmart is here. Is like, hey, Princess Pahlavi, when can we actually open a Walmart in Iran? We want, we want to open a Walmart in Tehran. When? Tell us now.
Options or other
Amir saying, wait until McDonald's asks a question. Yeah.
ways of maximizing respect for that sort of pluralism.
What do you mean? Like, what the hell are you talking about? You're like, is he asking about whether the pluralism will include secularism? Is that what you're talking about? Guys, you don't need to, like, do you understand the level of anti-Islamic views in Iran right now? You don't need to worry about
opinions about secularism versus Islamic Republic versus maybe other options. Are there hybrid options or other ways of maximizing respect for that sort of pluralism?
Okay, guys, if somebody had any basic understanding of the Iranian people, they wouldn't be asking such a question. Okay? You don't have to worry about secularism in the future. Like, even Muslims in Iran are going to be begging the next government to have no religion in the government. Like, secularism is not going to be an issue. In fact, you have to worry about the opposite of this. I'm serious. I'm not exaggerating. When the Islamic Republic falls, guys, this is not an exaggeration. When the Islamic Republic falls, you have to be worried about the safety of Muslims in Iran. Do you understand what I'm telling you? And this is a legitimate fear. This is how what has happened. Do you guys understand? I'm trying to, like, this. I'm not exaggerating. This is a serious thing. Like, imagine how much Iranians hate Islam right now. I mean, justifiably. That this is the thing that you need to be worried about.
Look, separation of church and state in my book is a
SM is saying okay, SM is saying in Persian, don't scare them. Okay, no. What I'm saying is that you shouldn't be worried about whether we're going to become secular. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, don't worry. Don't worry. The Iranian people, even the most religious Muslims in Iran, are going to, many of them, not all of them, are going to be their response to be fuck no, keep religion out of politics. Even religious Muslims, most religious Muslims, not all, most religious Muslims will tell you that.
Requisite to actual
Because in fact, some religious Muslims want Islam out of politics because they saw how much Islam in politics has made Iranians hate Islam. So they were like, you ruined the reputation of Islam in their mind. I mean, Islam is bad by nature, I think. But in the eyes of many Iranian Muslims, the only reason why Iranians hate Islam so much is because Islam was in the government. So that they're hoping if Iran goes secular, then they could rebuild the reputation of Islam in Iran. That's what they think.
democracy, and we have had the proof of it in numerous
So what is he? Let me see what the prince is saying.
prerequisite to actual democracy, and we have had the proof of it in numerous different Western democracies. The degree of laïcité, as the French will say, may vary a little bit. In France, you cannot even wear an actual symbol that defines your faith, whether it's the Star of David or Allah or the cross, whatever it is.
Yeah, so he's saying we have different levels of secularism. So French secularism is more than American France is more secular than America. America is more secular than Israel, right? Israel is more secular than Egypt, right? So it's like it comes in, it's a spectrum, it's not binary.
In America, you can. There may be some differences, but the important element here is a clear separation of church from state. That's definitely a foregone conclusion in Iran. In fact, it will be in the advantage of the Shiite faith as well. And most of our clerics will recognize that the minute you start giving a privileged treatment of one ideology, whether religious or otherwise, it's the beginning of discrimination from the dead start. So the only guarantee in that sense is equality under the law, liberty of opinion, of expression, or faith, of ideology. And as long as the Constitution, as the law of the land, ensures that, that's where individual liberties and equality of citizens under the law can be achieved. And that's exactly what Iranians are pursuing. So that's very important to understand, that we are not going to be in any form or shape questioning the fact, because in Iran, we don't have the problem that some people in the West may have. The minute you question radical Islam, you are treated as someone who is perhaps Islamophobic. That has nothing to do with Islamophobia. It has to be the understanding that there are many Muslims around the world that are moderate, that are not radical, but there are some who are. And they are the problem behind the mess we see today. And we recognize that our country is the first victim of it, because they try to impose it on us and take us hostage in the first place. So whether or not a French citizen or a British citizen or an American citizen ultimately gets it, Iranian people now have gotten it all the way. Today's Gen Z is totally aware of these dynamics. They don't have a problem with the fact that a secular Iran doesn't mean that we are anti a faith or another. It simply means we respect and we would like to have freedom of religion in our country. That should be the first guarantee.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that the government is anti-Islam, but the citizens need to be free to be anti-Islamic, right? And also I agree that there are many Muslims who are good people. However, the way I phrase it is that they're good people because they're not following Islam. That's how I would phrase it. Obviously, Prince Reza Pahlavi should not say anything like that. We don't want him to say anything like that. We don't want him to lose the support of many Iranian Muslims who are anti the regime, right? But my view is that, yeah, the government should not have a pro or anti-Islam position, but the government should provide an environment where you can really be pro or anti-Islamic and express your pro and anti-Islamic views freely, right? But the government itself should not hold any position. Do you guys agree? Do you guys agree? Like, I don't think any government should come and say, like, oh, Islam is a good religion, it's a peaceful religion. No, shut the fuck up. And also, as an anti-Islam person myself, I think that if the government comes and says, actually, Islam is evil, Islam, it should be destroyed, I'm against that as well. Like, that's none of your business. From the position of the government, you should just provide the environment for us to fight that out. That should not be the position of the government. You stay the fuck out of secularism means the government stays the fuck out of religion. We as individuals will fight it out, and by fighting, I mean I'm not talking about physical fighting. Okay, I'm not talking about violence. I'm talking about the battle of ideas. Okay, do you guys agree with that? Oh, I agree with you. Arya is saying I agree with you, Armin. Okay, sounds good.
That will explain why, because of this regime, many Iranians of other faiths had to flee the country because of immediate persecution. But in tomorrow's free Iran and secular Iran, those rights and guarantees, the same liberties of Iranians that had to seek asylum in countries that offer them that liberty would like to be able to have the same liberties back home. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. The very same liberties that we enjoy here, we should be able to enjoy them.
Jack is saying no in the chat. Jack is saying government should be anti-religion. So Jack, then you are you're not so you don't believe in secularism, because government getting involved in religious positions is a violation of secularism. So you are not a secular person, Jack?
Back in Iran itself.
I know I said I was going to work from the back to the front, but I feel compelled to call on the gentleman right here in the front.
I mean, you say that with the logo with the Star of David on it. So, okay.
I know I said I was going to work from the back to the front, but I feel compelled to call on the gentleman right here in the front. So, compelled on a variety of levels.
Mike Froman, President of the Council, thank you for being here. When you envisage...
He was compelled because that's his boss. And like, I was compelled to ask him because he's the president of the council, which technically makes it his boss.
And right here in the front. So, compelled on a variety of levels.
Mike Froman, President of the Council, thank you for being here. When you envisage a possible uprising, how do you assess the relative importance of factors like economic deprivation, desire for democracy, desire for more just day-to-day social freedom, and something you mentioned in passing, ethnic tensions, the non-Persian elements of Iran, the Turkic, the Azeri, the other populations, the other minorities that may feel aggrieved? How do you see the various drivers of a potential uprising being assessed?
Well, again, a lot of what we have seen in recent years, gathering of Iranians around Cyrus the Great's tomb in Pasargad, all the way to the Mahsa Amini uprising, and basically the slogans that have been used or chanted in Iran as early as last week, I mean, as late as last week, and throughout these years, it's all pointing to a collective national, if you will, slogan. And they keep saying, you know, from Zahedan to, I don't know, the other side of the country, our life is dedicated to this cause of liberation. We'll get our country back.
That is very true. Like, do you see this in Iran when people are chanting? You see them shouting the name of the other cities in Iran that are, like, for example, people chanting in Tehran, when they come into the streets and they're chanting against the regime, they, in the chants, they mention the name of the other cities. Okay. Or when somebody is chanting in, you know, Zahedan, or somebody in Mashhad, or somebody in Shiraz, they keep referring to each other to show national unity, and they on purpose mention the cities with the ethnicity that is different from them, or like the Baluchi part. So Iran has so many different ethnicities, Persian being number one, you know, Kurdish, Turkmen, Azeri, Gilaki, Baluchi, Bakhtiyari, Lor, Arab, I think is like 2% Arab. So, and a lot of people, and this is the difference between Iran and other countries like Syria and Iraq, because in Iraq, there's a little sense of unity between all of these groups. Like in Iraq, for example, the Kurds and the Sunnis and the Shias, they see themselves as separate, as different. They don't have a collective identity that bonds them together as Iraqi. And in Syria, even more like, it's more like this. Like the Alawites and the Druze and the Sunnis and all the other groups, they don't see themselves as, they don't see their Syrian identity as more important than their, Alawite identity, for example, right? But in Iran, a Kurdish Iranian is Iranian first, Kurdish second. A Persian Iranian is an Iranian first, Persian second. An Azeri Iranian is Iranian first, Azeri second. A Baluchi Iranian is Iranian first, Baluchi second. So there's this national unity over this Iranian identity that bonds them together, and they demonstrate that when they're chanting in the streets. They demonstrate that by calling each other's name across the cities to show that we are from Tehran, we are with you in Baluchistan, or from Mashhad, we are with you in Zahedan, right? Or for Zahedan, we're with you in Rasht or somewhere else. That's what they try to show how strong of the bond they have with each other. And this level of patriotism is exactly what you need to keep a country together. Because whether Iraq will be Iraq is a question, okay? Whether Syria will be Syria is a question. Whether Lebanon will be Lebanon is a question. But Iran will always be Iran, because Iran is connected with this strong patriotic sense of unity, across Iranians with whatever ethnicity. That's what keeps Iran together. And that's why patriotism is so important to protect your country. Right?
And they keep saying, from Zahedan to...
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Somebody is translating the chant. So thank you so much, Kazal. So one of the chants is from Kurdistan to Baluchistan, I dedicate my life to Iran. That's one of the chants that people in the streets make when they're protesting against the government. From Kurdistan to Baluchistan, I dedicate my life to Iran. Thank you so much for that. Yes.
The other side of the country, our life is dedicated to this cause of liberation. We get our country back. The country getting back is for all of them, whether you are from Baluchistan or from Kurdistan or from Azerbaijan. It transcends anything that would be otherwise considered that, is this really sectarian or is it really national? Iranians as a whole have always felt as part of that country for centuries. We never had this issue that this regime has created before the revolution. Nobody would walk the street and say, oh, this guy is Muslim, this guy is Jewish, this guy is Baha'i, or so on or so forth. Our national team was comprised of representatives of various faiths and religions. It was our national team. Everybody was Iranian. Iranian Kurd, Iranian Azeri, Iranian Jew, Iranian Zoroastrian, and so on and so forth. And I think the same spirit of our national identity binds us all together. So I'm very comfortable and very confident that the minute all those who were disenfranchised, and yes, the regime was the cause for discrimination, whether it was ethnic discrimination, sexual discrimination, religious discrimination, or any other type of discrimination, that they will find again in that future the fact that nobody will ever feel unequal next to somebody else. And that's the whole spirit that gels them together. And they understand that they have to pitch in and contribute. They cannot just sit back and expect it to be handed to them on a silver platter. Kennedy once said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you could do for your country. And what you can do for your country right now is the basis of incentive that brings the people together. They find each other, they respond to one another, they chant together, the slogans are coordinated, and it's very representative and very diverse. So that's one thing. And I think ultimately the course is, I always, and that's the reason for IPP, Iran Prosperity Project. What is the roadmap to recovery? What are the immediate issues that we need to tackle to make sure that, first of all, the transition is stable, that the economy will be stable, that will have elements that considers all these factors, short-term, mid-term, and ultimately long-term. That's what really is the tangible elements for people to understand in what way they can benefit from this change. Because liberty, human rights, and democracy is, as we would say here, motherhood and apple pie, but does it actually put food on the table? and if we explain how and the country can get restarted and what are the preconditions, then I think the average person, particularly those who are most affected in areas that has been the most impoverished, Baluchistan is one, Kurdistan is one, will understand how they will benefit as a result. So rather than being in a sense of resisting change, they know that it cannot get any worse than what it is right now. And there's light at the end of the tunnel. But it requires collective participation. The call for a national uprising simply doesn't mean that somebody is going to come and, bring it on a silver platter. It's a call to a sense of responsibility and contribution and collective action. So everybody has stake in it. It's their campaign. It's not my campaign. It's their campaign. It's a national campaign that transcends any type of grouping, whether it is on ideological basis or ethnic reasons or what have you. It transcends all of that. And that's our collective cause. And that's why I think the Munich conference was successful. Because at the end of the day, we call for very simple, fundamental principles for all of us to agree on to be able to work together. Iran's national territorial integrity is critical. Again, individual liberties and equality under the law is one of the core principles. Separation of church from state or religious from government is a very important prerequisite. And of course, and last but not least, the right for the Iranian people to be able to freely determine their own future by means of free elections, which is why the constitutional process is part of the dynamics of political change and what will come in the future. That has been the basis of this platform that has bring all these diverse elements together. And we saw that and the success of that conference in Munich. And it's on that basis that we are regularly now progressing. I'm sure I will get much more data through the website. We just launched not even 2 days ago. It's in initial phase. And the response has been tremendous. It's not a one-way conversation. People are sending already ideas, plans, suggestions, progress, and all of this will be something to be monitored. The English version of the site should be up fairly soon, and all of these articles will be translated. So you will be able.
Oh, guys, so if this is the website that he's referring to again, maybe I have the Persian one already, so the English one is not up yet, but he's saying the English one will be ready soon. I'm going to send you the link to the website in the chat in case you could check in a couple of days to see if now the English version is going to be available.
Able to see how people are responding and are contributing to this. That's are really the measurables that will be able to let you understand and actually feel the dynamics of this process and how people are responding to it and how they're working together. And I think that's a very big element to satisfy those who still have doubt whether or not Iranian people are ready and able to do whatever it is that is asked from them to do at this time.
Right here in the middle.
Hi, I'm Leslie Warner. My question is, usually in social movements, what's so interesting about social movements is that ones that are successful is that a lot of times they're leaderless, which makes them more difficult to combat on the part of the regime in power. And what you've described is a very, very diverse array of people, which I think is a huge strength. And it appears that they're mobilized by opposition to the current regime. My question is, when the regime falls, what actions do you think need to be taken to maintain the cohesiveness of that group? Because what we've seen in other cases of regime transition and general political transitions is that there's a lot of cohesion against the regime, and then there's a bit of a vacuum sometimes that can be filled by often nefarious actors, while the civilians get their act together and try and figure out how they're going to move forward. So once the element of the regime that you are all opposed to is gone, how do you maintain cohesion among a diverse array of actors?
Thank you.
Finally, a high-level good question. My God, I'm actually very interested to hear the answer to this one. This is finally somebody asked an adult question. Somebody that asks a less than obvious question. This is good.
That's a great
Let's
question.
see what the results.
Actually, again,
Oh yeah, so the prince also said that's a really great question as well.
Array
Look at this.
of actors.
Thank you.
that's a great question. Actually, again, one of the first elements and projects that IPP has been focusing on is the first 100 days. The regime has collapsed. What do we do the first 100 days? How is the composition of that interim governance be composed of, and by whom and with whom? To what extent there is a leading team that offers that transition, the advisory team, preparing the stage for the election of people's representative at the Constitutional Assembly, which should be ultimately the methodology of determining ultimately what future secular system people want, so that they can start drafting the text of that constitution that will be offered to the nation by means of referendum to ratify or not. All of these elements in detail are being, as we speak, discussed, not just behind closed doors. In fact, IPP has given a 45-day period for people to respond to that, chime in, critique it, tweak it. So everybody agrees on the mechanics of that change. And
so what he's referring to this is to this plan. So this is the IPP, the Iran Prosperity Projects. I mean, the Iran Prosperity Project has a lot of they have done a lot, but one of them is this booklet, the emergency phase booklet, which is for the first 100 days. And if you look at it, you can see that this is basically the plan for what to do in the first 100 days after the Islamic Republic collapse. Reza Pahlavi's team created this. You can see Saeed Qasim-Nejad. By the way, Saeed Qasim-Nejad, I had an interview with him on my Persian channel. He basically collected I also had an interview on my Persian channel with this guy, Najat Bahrami, about this booklet, right? So you can see that this is a very detailed plan regarding what needs to happen. And these are all experts, right? What needs to happen in the first 100 days. And they released this, and they also gave 45 days. They allowed 45 days for Iranians all around the world to criticize it. So, and then they take the criticism to improve the booklet after, right? So you can see the process. That's what his team has done. It's actually a very detailed plan. Like, I went through it. It's really amazing. And it's really, you can see the level of detail that they go through, and you can see how intelligent this is, because they keep using historical references and reasons for why they suggested different things. Oh, by the way, you can see in the foreign policy section, if you look at the foreign policy section, if you look at the timetable, the first 100 days action plan summary, you can see that it has week 1, month 2 and 3, and end of month 3. And if you go to week 1, you can see recognition of Israel in week 1 of the foreign policy, so not within the first 100 days, within the first week of the Islamic Republic falling. Their priority is to, as part of the foreign policy agenda, to recognize Israel, right? So this is what Prince Reza Pahlavi is referring to this booklet right now.
who has what role in it, whether you are respond to that, chime in, discuss, not just behind closed doors. In fact, IPP has given a 45-day period for people to respond to that, chime in, critique it, tweak it. So everybody agrees on the mechanics of that change and who has what role in it, whether you are representative of a political organization, or you are an activist, or you are an economic expert or a legal expert, so on and so forth. What I think is very important is that I don't think we have too much of an issue in the sense of people questioning whether or not this should be the course. The issue is more making sure that we are not missing an element that could be a challenge. For instance, when you look at truth and reconciliation, what happened in South Africa, when we are thinking about transitional justice, what do we do with the remnant of elements that are in the regime and have to face justice? What needs to be done in terms of incorporating the majority of the civil bureaucracy and the people who, of course, are taking sides with the movement and are now moving away from the regime. These are the actual mechanics and details that are, I think, important for us to be able to ensure a smoother transition. And I think the majority of the groups I've talked to, whether they're monarchists or Republicans or in the center or the right or the left, are not.
Yeah, so guys, remember, in here, like unlike in United States, when you say Republican, you're talking more right-leaning people. In Iran, we have monarchists and Republican, and on average, not always, on average, monarchists would be considered more right-leaning, and Republican will be considered more left-leaning in Iran. So Republican in Iran doesn't mean the same thing as Republican in the United States, okay?
Right now campaigning as a political party to win an election to form a government. They're here understanding that we need to make sure that we have a common platform to make sure that that phase is managed successfully and prepare themselves so the day when we will need to conduct elections to form the next government, our political parties are ready to step in and, like in any other democracy, have their own campaigns, and ultimately a winner is decided that forms the future government, whether it's a president or prime minister. So I think on that course of action, the priority lines are defined, what we do in this phase between now until the regime collapses, but particularly what needs to happen immediately after that. So I think that this process means that it is acknowledged and accepted by the majority of the participants. So it's not like in the blind. It's not like, okay, we are discovering something new. And the reason we're trying to be as transparent and as clear as possible, it's because unlike what happened in 1978, when the majority had no clue of what will be the outcome of this regime, this time we're not saying, let's just get rid of this regime, then we'll see what happens, which is what they were saying at the time. Let's get rid of the Shah, then we'll see what happens. But this time we say, what do we need instead? How it's going to be done? And here's the mechanics of it. So everybody understands from day one, every step of the way, in a very transparent way. And I think that's an element that in fact solidifies the unity rather than people being doubtful and take exception. At least that's the method we have implemented, and it has paid off.
Right here, Barbara Slavin.
Oh,
Thank you very much. Hi, Barbara Slavin from the Stimson Center. Two questions.
Barbara, hold on. Is this?
Right here, Barbara Slavin.
Thank you very much. Hi, Barbara Slavin from the Stimson Center. Two questions. You have
Wait, this lady is a friend of the Islamic Republic, and I think she's anti-Israeli. She's a friend of the Islamic government. I think she's a leftist. Yeah, Barbara Slavin, I know her. She's a leftist, pro-Islamic regime woman. And I will see if I could. So I think she's going to ask a question that is going to demonstrate that. Hold on.
expressed a lot of support for sanctions, yet we see.
Let me see.
Hi, Barbara Slavin from the Stimson Center. Two questions. You have expressed a lot of support for sanctions, yet we see that Iran, which had a large middle class until about 2010, 2012, has seen its economy collapse since the imposition of so-called maximum pressure. This means people are poorer. It's harder for them to come out in this.
Oh, see, I know it. She's supporting the Islamic Republic. She's saying that, sanctions on the Islamic Republic is going to make the Iranian people poorer. Like, why are you doing this? What do you guys think that Prince Reza Pahlavi is going to say? Guess what is, so she's saying, why are you supporting sanctions against the regime when this is going to make the Iranian people poorer? Like, aren't you basically supporting strategies against the Iranian people? So exactly what a pro-regime woman would ask.
This means people are poorer. It's harder for them to come out in the streets. What makes you think more maximum pressure is going to...
Look, she's laughing like, oh, what do you think more maximum pressure? By the way, guys, I was right. Look at it. This is her. This is her with IRGC officials. This is Larijani Like, look at them. She's like with the Islamic Republic flag. She wanted to go to she goes to them often, and she likes them, and she takes a lot of smiling pictures with them. She's a pro-regime. She's anti-Israeli as well.
To achieve the desired results. And the second
One question, Barbara. One question.
I have to ask
Yeah,
about your
no, you get one
identification with
Yeah,
Israel
one question.
and whether you think that
Barbara,
is
one question,
appropriate.
please.
Okay.
One question.
See, her second question is like, do you really think supporting Israel is a good idea? Like, do you think that's appropriate? Like that, like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? But again, like, she's like, what do you think whether or not that's appropriate? So she's anti-Israeli as well. But again, I appreciate that she said that because she's advertising the fact that Prince Reza Pahlavi is with Israel. I really want more people to know that. So she was trying to, do that to attack him. But in effect, what she did was she actually demonstrated that, Prince Reza Pahlavi is on the side of Israel. So thank you. Look how full of herself she is. Look at
What makes you think more maximum pressure is going to achieve the desired results? And the second
One question, Barbara. One question.
I have to ask about your identification with Israel
one question.
and whether you think that
Barbara,
is
one question,
appropriate.
please.
Okay.
One question. There's lots of people.
So let me know what you guys think Reza Pahlavi is going to say regarding the sanctions and how that could hurt the Iranian people.
who want to ask questions. Go ahead.
Well, look, the Iranian people don't blame the West for their poverty. They blame the regime
Yes.
and everything it has done to bring them to the stage at which they are right now. I think it's only the apologists and the contrarians for the regime narrative that told this line that, sanctioning the country is bad, and this is going to impoverish the people. Look, we are in a war against this regime as Iranians, and we are willing to tighten the belts to survive. Our problem is not assuming the sanctions. Our problem is every time we had a chance, they've been thrown under the bus. They've been thrown under the bus under the Obama administration. They were in the Green Movement.
The Iranian people were thrown under the bus.
Were
Yes.
thrown under the bus by the Biden administration after the Massa movement. Are we going to be thrown under the bus yet again? Because as long as this regime is there, the economic situation is going to continue. But once this regime is gone, there comes the opportunity to come out of this misery. What has delayed our liberalizing ourselves from the misery is because of the wrong policy of your governments.
Mm-hmm.
Because the chief culprit is Khamenei and his regime, and you're not doing anything to help us get rid of him. Not because you care about us. Just think of your own interests. Have you achieved anything? Have they given you everything that would be justifiable in terms of realpolitik, if there's any of it? Or diplomacy as a means to suggest that, okay, we're willing to negotiate, but nobody takes responsibility of it, and you kick the can down the road yet again, which means other Iranians on a daily basis being killed. Look, in the last month alone, we had 100 executions. In this calendar year, over 1,000. This is an ongoing thing.
Crazy. Did you guys know that in this calendar year we had 1,000 executions so far in Iran? Did you guys know that?
Much more important than whether or not they can afford to put food on the table. Their kids are being murdered every single day. That needs to change.
Okay.
Well, I've said what I need to have from the world. Solidarity. The same solidarity that dissidents in the Soviet Union were expecting from the Western free world. The same solidarity that South Africans wanted to put an end to apartheid. The same solidarity that helped Lech Walesa and his friends overcome Jaruzelski. What else is different in Iran? The same solidarity. And we don't see it in the case of Iranians. We've seen always the same approach of appeasement and negotiations, endless buying time by the regime, and nothing was achieved as a result. Until this attitude and viewpoint is not reset, the Iranian people will continue to be starving. Not because you're imposing sanctions. That makes it more difficult for the regime to fuel its old machine. But it will keep them still longer in power, and that will not change the game. The game changer is for the regime to be gone. And when we say regime change, it's because we understand that it is because of the regime that we are in this misery, not because of external factors. This regime is directly responsible to put Iranians in the mess it is. That's why we want, as Iranians, this regime to no longer be there. And we question whether the world see eye to eye with us that this is ultimately the solution, as opposed to think that you can still manage them, contain them, humor them, appease them, pay hostage bribes to them, and encourage their behavior as they have continued to have. Because you haven't changed their behavior. In fact, you have encouraged their behavior as means of this appeasement.
Sir.
I mean, that was a perfect answer. I don't know what else to say. Lita saying, what were they executed for? Opposing the current regime. More recently, a lot of the executions have been about supporting Israel. And when you support Israel, what the regime will say is that you're a spy of Israel, even though you basically just liked a post maybe that was supportive of Israel, and they will just call you a spy. Let me tell you, by the way, guys, the Islamic Republic hasn't been able to catch any of this Israel's spy. Every time they execute a so-called spy, they're executing somebody for, I don't know, saying something. Arya, by the way, asked earlier, Armin, how I can join your team, Atheist Republic. The link to our Discord is in the description if you want to follow that. So, okay, so let's continue.
Hi, my name is Josh Mogul. I'm from a Jewish diaspora community in Great Neck, New York, where you are very popular. We love you. My question for you.
Oh, wait. Something nice. Hold on. I was reading one of the comments. This is so sweet. Hold on.
Hi, my name is Josh Mogul. I'm from a Jewish diaspora community in Great Neck, New York, where you are very popular. We love you. My question for you is, the Supreme Leader...
Oh, that was so sweet. I want to hear that again. I like that.
My name is Josh Mogul. I'm from a Jewish diaspora community in Great Neck, New York, where you are very popular. We love you. My question for you is, the Supreme Leader, there might be an election soon, and how would you respond? If the Supreme Leader were to pass away and there would be an election soon, would you consider announcing a transitional government and seeking formal government support from other governments?
So the Supreme Leader is not chosen by directly elected by election by the people.
Thank you.
But yeah.
Look, our campaign is not based on whether or not Khamenei is in power or not. That's irrelevant. Because whatever the regime attempts to manufacture post-Khamenei, to the level we see already fraction and division within the system, and there will certainly be more after his demise, then I think that, in fact, makes it even more likely for a quicker resolve of that transition. Because while he's still holding the fort, he still maintains some degree of command. He still has some eminence over the whole structure. But the minute he's gone, the system will implode from within. Obviously, our behavior and attitude vis-a-vis how do you contend with all of that is not to confront the regime directly in terms of, let's say, armed struggle or things of that nature. I still believe in the school of thought that civil disobedience and non-cooperation and non-violence is a better way, A, to consider the fact that people will have less of a cost in achieving that end. Two, I don't see many scenarios of political change that are brought by means of violence that ends up with a democratic outcome. And three, in fact, I think that if we achieve that by telling the people who are still sitting there deciding on when to join the people, rather than see themselves threatened, they see themselves as part of the solution, again, encouraging maximum defection. And that momentum can help us bring it to the level that the biggest element, in my view, that will be the final nail in the coffin of the regime in the sense of paralyzing it from within by Iranian action, not by means of foreign sanctions, are nationwide labor strikes. That's why I keep saying that there has to be a dual approach to the problem. Relying on external sanction alone is not the solution. And by the way, let's not forget, all these sanctions was always with the premise of thinking that as a result, the regime will change its behavior. Whereas it's not behavior change that you should seek. The solution is still regime change. But it's important to have the outside component, but the outside component by means of maximum pressure is not sufficient. You have to have a domestic element, which is why I've been calling for maximum support for the Iranian people.
See, I was right. When he says that the Iranian people need to topple the regime themselves, and not by invasion, not by like of some of foreign powers, he's not talking about that. That he's not suggesting that foreign pressure is not required. He says foreign pressure is required. However, at the end of the day, the final push over the edge will be happening by the hands of the Iranian people.
And I think the combination of these two will also lead to maximum defections, because now there's a dynamic in play. It's not just on paper as a concept. It's an actual measurable thing.
We're starting to run out of time, so I want to take the last two questions and then have Reza Pahlavi answer. Sir, right here, and then right here, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sheehan from Multiplier Capital. Assuming that the regime were to collapse.
See, Multiplier Capital. So these people are also, they're not just politicians, they're also industry leaders, which makes me think that the guy that said he's from Walmart, he's actually from Walmart. So Walmart was asking about secularism in Iran, which is a sentence I never thought I would ever say in my life. Did you guys thought that Walmart is asking an Iranian prince about whether or not we're going to have secularism in Iran after the collapse of the Islamic Republic? Did you ever in your life imagine hearing that sentence? Because I didn't.
Hi, I'm Kevin Sheehan from Multiplier Capital. Assuming that the regime were to collapse, what would happen on day one in terms of the provision of security? Would you expect the military and the police to transfer their loyalty to some new transition government, or would you expect help from the GCC and other friendly neighbors and allies? Thanks.
Great. Yes, right here. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Shireen Hunter, Georgetown University.
Oh my God. Okay, so this lady is a leftist, I think. From, you could see Shireen is an Iranian leftist. From brainwashed by Georgetown University. So let's see what she has to say.
I have to first.
This is an Iranian mind being poisoned by Western leftist academia.
Shireen Hunter, Georgetown University. I have to first of all say that I do share Your Highness's vision for Iran.
Yes, people in the chat are saying, "Oh my God, Shireen Hunter, Iranian leftist, the worst." Okay, guys, brace yourself for a shitty question that is probably not even a question. It's an attack. It's an attack designed to look like a question, but it's not going to be a question. It's going to be an attack.
But I do share Your Highness's vision for Iran, a secular Iran, a nationalist Iran, where the focus and the order of priority is Iran and not Islam or some other kind of transnational aspiration.
With respect, Shireen, if you could get to the question.
I will get to the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Shireen, you're not here to make a statement about your views. You're here to ask a question. Nobody else came out with a speech prepared, Shireen. Everybody else asked a question. Nobody else came and gave a list of what they agreed or disagreed with Reza Pahlavi, Shireen. Ask your goddamn question.
National aspirations.
With respect, Shireen, if you could get to the question.
I will get to the question. I'm sorry, Steve, but you know, there are some preliminaries have to be said.
Look, now she's arguing. No, that is not required. Why didn't other people need that? Why do you need that? Why do you need that? With like, oh, it needs to be said. Why didn't the other people need it?
My more important, however, problem with the way you are approaching is because
your problem. That's not a question. Did they give you the mic to come and explain your problems with his approach, or to ask a question?
Important, however, problem with the way you are approaching is because you were very young when the 1979 revolution happened, but I was a diplomat of my country, and I felt the whole weight of the tragedy of that. Everybody there was also gathering together, the communists, the mujahideen,
Guys, we're here to listen to Shirin's life story and her views about the history of Iran.
Mossadegh and so on, and they were hoping that they're going to have a democratic government and so on. We saw what happened when your late father left. Immediately after that, of course, the regrets began. However, all these opposition groups began to fight among themselves like cats and dogs. Now, why are you so optimistic that the same kind of thing is not going to happen? Because let's face it, there is an element that you forget, and that is element of power.
That's the question. Why are you so optimistic?
One last word, please, Steve. The other thing is that Iran's condition.
Steve, your mistake was choosing a leftist radical to ask a question. This is your doing.
Actually now is much more fragile. Iran has predatory neighbors, including Turkey, which wants the dismemberment of Iran. And also the state of Israel would like Iran to be divided up. So why do you?
Oh, thank guys. This is so, I'm so happy. Okay, you know what? I take it back. Please give the mic to these fucking idiots, because they are actually so useful. I just want, guys, Israelis in the chat, did I not tell you anybody that has a problem with Reza Pahlavi probably also has a problem with Israel? Does this, you Israelis, does this not show that you need to support Prince Reza Pahlavi? Every time, almost every time somebody is, I'm so glad that they are so anti-Israeli that they have to add that in to make our job easier, to show you guys how much Pahlavi and Israel are aligned. Why is it that every time somebody has a problem with Pahlavi, they have to just get in their anti-Israeli perspective in as well? This is just so good for us to demonstrate to Israelis how aligned we are with each other. Isn't this proof? Isn't this amazing? Thank you. By the way, she's lying. Israel doesn't want to divide Iran. Fucking bullshit. You fucking moron. Why are you lying? But thank you for making our job so much easier.
Israel would like Iran to be divided up. So why do you think that everybody is just going to sit on their hands and allow the Iranians to get rid of this regime? We have never tried.
She said, I have just one more word. I don't think she knows how to count either.
To change regime behavior through real engagement.
Thank you.
So why don't you give that a chance?
Thank you.
She's saying, why didn't you give diplomacy another chance? Okay, she's retarded.
Never tried to change regime behavior through real engagement.
Thank you.
So why don't you give that a chance?
You fucking idiot. What do you think has been tried for the past 46 fucking years? You fucking idiot. Like, obviously age doesn't make people wiser. Have you not? You seem like somebody that has been alive for the past 46 years, but it seemed like you were sleeping for the past 40. Did you just wake up from a 46-year coma, lady? Like, are you fucking insane? Like, have you not seen that this has been tried again and again and again and again? What has been the results? What the fuck is wrong with these people?
I'm not sure ultimately what the specific question is, because that's almost like,
I think, you know.
Yeah, there was not a question. Like, there's a Princess of Pahlavi was like, I don't know what the question was, because there was not a question.
What the specific question is, because that's almost like,
I think, you know,
one course.
My first job in Washington was a research associate
about.
at CSIS, and Shireen Hunter. That she was a force of nature then, and she's still a force of nature now.
First of all, shut up and let the prince finish his point.
I think
she's not a force of nature. She's oh my god.
I think
I mean, she is a force of nature in the same way that, I don't know, cancer is a force of nature, or like the plague is a force of nature.
Totally forgot what the first question
The
was.
first question,
Maybe you
why
can
would-
remind me? Yeah, and then we
Yeah.
finish with that.
And the other question about
Yeah.
in the immediate aftermath security, if we can do it in about 35 seconds.
Okay.
Why are you optimistic
Was the
that
first question? or the
that was
second question?
Shireen's first question
Okay.
was, why are you given the history of the revolution,
Right.
and there was lots of hope for real progressive change. Why are you optimistic that this time, if the regime were to collapse, that you would have a different outcome? You would have a more democratic, open society in Iran, that it wouldn't revert to some sort of authoritarian
I
system.
think the biggest element that gives me confidence is not what the elite says, but what the grassroots says.
Mm.
Today, Iran's grassroots, the people on the streets, by the millions across the country, are chanting death to the dictator. In 1978, what drove the agenda was not the masses on the streets. It was certain intellectual circles, mostly the Marxists and the Islamists, who found some interest in common against the previous establishment, that drove the narrative. Some remnant of those still exist, but there are
This is such a great point. Right now, what you see, a revolution, the uprising in Iran, is organic. It's from the bottom up. The revolution in 1979 was not people's revolution. It was an engineered, artificial revolution created by the unity, the alliance between Marxists and Islamists. It was an engineered revolution. It was not an organic, self-made revolution by the people of Iran. That's what he's referring to, and he's saying, you see, those people are still with us. Some of those people trying to continue their agenda. I mean, the Iranian leftists are pissed off because when the Islamists managed to come to power, they removed them for power. And again, this is what the leftists never understand. They always unite with the Islamists, and then once the Islamists get the power, they get rid of the leftists. And now the leftists are pissed off that the Iranian leftists are pissed off that the Islamists actually pushed them aside. But they're still more butthurt over Pahlavi than the Islamists.
against the previous establishment that drove the narrative. Some remnant of those still exist, but they're irrelevant because the grassroots have passed way beyond that point. The millions of Iranian youth today, the Gen Z of Iran today, is very clear on what it wants and what it doesn't want. And at the end of the day, they are the ones who will define the future. Not some think tank in Washington, not some reporter in such a newspaper here or in Europe, but the people on the streets. And those within the Iranian intelligentsia, academic centers, activists, civil society, advocates, lawyers, doctors, scientists, who catch up to that ask and that demand and are here to serve what these people at the end of the day want for themselves, are going to be the factor that would determine it. If everything we said right now was sort of crafted or engineered or designed in some office, in some building, writing a script for a country, I would have said, sure, maybe we don't know what the hell we're doing. All I'm doing is facilitating and maximizing the chance for that grassroots to succeed.
Right.
So the real question is, can we actually help that grassroots fulfill their dream and aspirations to freedom? That's what it's all about. And that's what my campaign is there to reinforce and maximize their chance to succeed. And that needs to be understood. And I hope I can convey that to all of you, that this is what it's all about. Remember, what is the ask of the millions of Iranians who are fed up with this regime? And do they deserve better than what they have?
We are unfortunately out of time. My apologies to Kevin back there. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe Steve, maybe you shouldn't have talked about how your history with Shireen and how force of a nature she is and your memories with her, so that Reza Pahlavi had the chance to answer the other guy as well. Maybe adding those comments maybe was unnecessary. I mean, who made you the host? What the fuck?
Thank you very, very much for spending some time with us this afternoon. It's been a fascinating discussion. I'm looking forward to running into you at the Giant in Potomac Village. And thank you all for your time.
Okay, that was really good. But I saw this comment, BT saying leftists are so dumb, they were outsmarted by Islamists. Let that sink in. That was a good one. That's a good one. I like it. And by the way, Shirin is a Persian word which means sweet. And Holstrand was saying in the chat, she doesn't seem sweet to me. That's pretty good. I like that as well. All right, guys, this was it. Okay, so please share the stream because I really want more people to be familiar with Prince Reza Pahlavi and support him. I hope this stream convinced some of you who weren't convinced before that Prince Reza Pahlavi is the solution. Like, guys, there's absolutely no one else. Like, first, you just have to put these statements next to each other. And do you guys agree that the lack of stability and war and all the conflicts and terrorism in the Middle East mostly come from the Islamic Republic in Iran? Yes or no? Okay, it mostly comes from them, right? So if you agree with that, then the next statement that you have to ask yourself, do you agree that if the Islamic Republic was not in power and Iran was a secular democracy, then most of these problems will go away? So if you say to the yes to statement number one, then it would be logical conclusion to say yes to the statement number two as well. Okay, you guys are saying yes in the chat. That's great. Okay, so given the statement two, then you have to ask yourself, is there an alternative for the Islamic Republic that wants to have a government that is liberal and secular democratic and it's an ally to United States and Israel? Does that exist? Okay, and the answer to that is yes. It's Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team. Then the next question is there anyone else? Is there any other alternative to the Islamic Republic other than Prince Reza Pahlavi and his team? And so you could also ask yourself, does Prince Reza Pahlavi has huge support? Does he have the most support compared to everyone else? All the scientific collected data say yes. And then you could ask yourself, is there anyone else? And then the answer to that is no. Like, it's not that Prince Reza Pahlavi is the best option, because saying that he's the best option suggests that there are other options that you could compare it to, but the reality is that there is no other option. Okay, so we have that. Then the next thing you have to ask yourself, well, is it even possible to get the Islamic Republic replaced with, Prince Reza Pahlavi? Is a regime change possible? Then you look at the fact that the Islamic Republic has never been this weak, and you also look at the fact that the opposition to the Islamic Republic has never been this strong and this organized and this united and this popular and this much connected with these many defections from the regime. So it's not 100%, but it has never been more likely, right? So with that, we come to the conclusion that we have an answer to all the conflict and chaos in the Middle East, which is, if we get rid of, will help every country in the region, but the two countries that will benefit the most will be Iran first and Israel second, because Israel gets threatened more than any other country in the region, right? So then the question that you have to be asking yourself is that, isn't it obvious that supporting Prince Reza Pahlavi and helping him and helping the Iranian people change the regime and replace him with the Pahlavi as an alternative is the answer? Like, if you put everything I said next to each other, isn't it obvious that this is the solution? Because to me, it's very obvious. To me, it's very obvious if you put all of these together. Like, I don't see in the chain that I just created, in the links that I just created for you, like I showed you, I don't see any of them not connecting. Like, one follows the other one. Like, it's so obvious that they all like follow the other one. Like, the conclusion is pretty straightforward. And this is why I don't understand why more Americans why more American politicians are not talking about Reza Pahlavi, and why not more Israelis are not talking about Reza Pahlavi? Because this is, I mean, if you are an Israeli and you're saying, I wish I lived in a country where I didn't have to go and hide in a bunker once in a while. If you're an Israeli that say, like, wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to live like I could have a normal life like many of the citizens of other countries, where I didn't have bombs being dropped on my home every once in a while, that I'm not sometimes wondering about whether our country will survive or not. Like, that's not a question anymore. If you are an Israeli that wishes that has wondered, wouldn't it be nice if I could just live a normal life without the threat of annihilation every Tuesday? If you have said that to yourself, then the answer is Prince Reza Pahlavi. I mean, look at the logic that I offered you. That's the answer. Like, everything that I said to you makes sense. So the answer to your problem is supporting Prince Reza Pahlavi. It couldn't be more clear. So let me know if I convinced you, if you weren't convinced before, right? And yeah, Christian, I know today is October 7th. That's why it was so important for us to do this stream, because the solution to not having what happened in October 7th ever again is regime change in Iran and replacing the regime in Iran with Prince Reza Pahlavi. That's the solution to never having October 7th again. This is why I did this on October 7th. Guys, make sure like the stream. I need more people to see this. Okay, guys. All right, I'm gonna head out. So, oh wait, thank you. Amir saying Atheist Republic, the best channel for Middle East geopolitics and religion analysis. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Long live Atheist Republic. I appreciate that. All right, guys. Oh, wait, hold on. What impact will regime change have on countries like Saudi? It will have positive impact on every country. Every country. On Saudi, I mean, Saudi citizens don't have to worry about the Islamic Republic's Islamization agenda in the region, because for example, the Islamic Republic wants to use the Shia parts of Saudi Arabia as a way to export his Islamic revolution. And John just gave us a super chat saying the problem is partisan blinders distract people. Yep, but I think the Iranian people and Israeli people have less of that problem. They understand what the solution is. They understand what the problem is, and they understand what the solution is. All right, guys. I'm going to head out. Say it with me. I'm Israel Chai. Javid Shah. See you guys tomorrow. Mwah. Subscribe.